The mid-season balance patch is here, and I think this Arc Titan build specifically you're going to see a whole lot more of. Today I'm bringing you the Antaeus Ward Juggernaut Arc Titan, probably one of the most hated builds in the game to play against, and for good reason. This build has not just one but two shields that can deflect anything in the game, from sniper rifle shots to even a Nova bomb. It's absolutely unreal in PvP, especially if you play aggressively and love to just run in against your opponents. As we also get amplified for speed booster as well, which gives us so many benefits to the ape playstyle thanks to the synergy from our weapon. Now, I know a lot of you will say that this build has been around for some time, so what's changed? Well, from later today, rapid fire fusion rifles are getting a buff. Some people have undersold this buff to you guys. On paper it's a 15 damage buff, which sounds measly, but it's basically making them go from an 8 bolt kill to a 7 bolt kill at the highest resilience levels. And trust me, 7 is the magic number. It's the number that makes them feel super consistent with all types of playstyles. So many times previously when you used a rapid fire fusion rifle, you hit the majority of your bolts, i.e. 7 out of 9, and they survived with a tiny amount of health. Well, from today, no more. Those 7 bolts that you hit will kill guaranteed. And I wanted to bring you a secret roll for my fusion rifle of choice that very few people, if any, have discussed, that lets you voot people in 0.3 seconds. Yes, just 300 milliseconds, and only 6 bolts required to kill at all resilience levels once this balance patch is out. Honestly, this roll is about to become a problem in the Crucible, especially when you combine it with this build and can be invincible during the entire charge up time. The synergy here is off the charts. If you're looking for a very easy build that has a relatively low skill floor and you're fed up of the Immortal SMG, then this is the ultimate build for you. This build hard counters the Immortal. If you have a good idea of the build itself, then use the timestamps below to skip to my weapon recommendation, which is going to be key because most of you won't know about the roll I'm recommending that pairs insanely well with this build. Dim link for the build will be in my Discord, link for which will be in the comments or description below. So starting off with the exotic armor of choice, we have the Antaeus Wards, which are exotic Titan boots that give you a frontal shield for 0.45 seconds when you slide after sprinting for 1.5 seconds. Not only that, but Antaeus Wards also provide improved slide distance by 33%. Now, 1.5 seconds is a long time in the Destiny world. Most weapons can kill you 2 times over in that time frame, so we need something that protects us while sprinting. And that's where our first aspect, Juggernaut, comes in. Juggernaut gives you a shield when sprinting that can absorb 50 damage from the front. It uses up your class ability if and only if the shield tanks the entirety of that damage. So if you take less than 50 damage and stop using Juggernaut by engaging the enemy before then it won't use up your class ability, meaning it's then up ready for your next engagement. Now, if you're amplified, which we can get through a number of ways in this build, then this Juggernaut shield is boosted to 75 HP. Our second aspect, Knockout, is probably one of the strongest aspects in the game. We can get our health back on melee kills, and our melee becomes juiced up with increased range and increased damage when we break our opponent's shields. So it becomes super easy to finish off enemies if you leave them at low health when aping. Now with Knockout, our melee kills trigger amplification. We can also get amplified intrinsically in this build by getting a rapid double kill with our Arc Fusion Rifle, which I'll discuss later. Amplification gives a whole host of benefits even in PvP which are slept on. 50 mobility, 33% increased slide distance, 40 handling, and 0.95 times handling multiplier for 15 seconds, and it also boosts your Juggernaut shield's HP. And if we get the speed booster buff when amplified, we get even more bonuses on top. It grants 12.5% increased sprint speed, 50% increased slide distance, which stacks with Antaeus Wards, 100% increased jump height, and 15% damage resist. Honestly, all these bonuses are insane and synergize so well with the ape playstyle mentality. You'll notice in this background footage, my enemies just don't expect me to charge at them that fast. Now for the rest of the build. For my class ability, I prefer using Barricade Shield because it's super useful in game modes like Trials of Osiris for getting reses and closing off lanes. If you wanted to maximize Juggernaut uptime, then using a class ability with a lower cooldown time like Thruster would be better. And it just gives you that extra maneuverability when aping. I use Catapult Lift, but you could use Strafe Lift, Shoulder Charge for better mobility, and then Lightning Grenade. We've talked about our aspects already, now let's dive into our fragments. I use Spark of Focus, which increases our class ability regeneration by 75% when sprinting, which you'll be doing a whole lot of. Honestly, it's worth the 10 resilience loss. Spark of Feedback, which gives you 50% increased melee damage, which stacks with knockout and makes melee trades very easy. And then finally Spark of Recharge, which improves melee and grenade recharge when critical health by 200%. Before I go into my armor mods and stat distribution, I think it's more important to talk about the main weapon I pair with this build, and that's the craftable fusion rifle from Neomuna, the Iterative Loop. Now, this is an arc rapid fire fusion rifle that will now with the update kill all resilience level guardians with 7 bolts out of 9 at base with a charge time of 500 milliseconds. Now there's 2 roles that work well with this build. The first one is what I'm going to call the standard role. Both roles use under pressure and kickstart, and both utilize arrowhead break and counterbalance mod to make the recoil direction as vertical as possible, allowing you to consistently land your bolts. And for the standard role, you want to run projection fuse and range masterwork to push that range out. Honestly, under pressure, which gives you increased stability and accuracy when you have 2 or less in the magazine, is enough with the improved recoil direction to make the gun feel consistent enough. Don't need any more stability based perks. And then you have Kickstart, which when you sprint for 1.5 seconds and then slide, you get 20% increased damage and your charge time is reduced from 500 milliseconds to 400 milliseconds. The increased damage is essentially making the gun more consistent, requiring less bolts to kill and pushing the range out as well. Now, Kickstart obviously synergizes insanely well with this build. We get the Antaeus shield activating at the same time, and the Antaeus shield is activated for 450 milliseconds, so it literally protects you for the entire duration and a little bit more of the charge time. You are literally invincible from the front when charging. The second role basically supercharges that charge time to a ridiculous 336 milliseconds. We go for arrowhead break and counterbalance mod again, like I said, under pressure and kickstart, but this time we changed those range perks to charge time perks. We go for accelerated coils and a charge time masterwork, which means when you're sliding, you will still be able to 6-bolt kill people of all resiliences, but now you have an absolutely absurd 336 millisecond charge time. The charge time is that low, you can run around with your rapid fire fusion rifle as if it were a shotgun, but it can map at like 12 or 13 meters of range. Try out both of these roles, they both pair so well with the build. Oh, and the fusion rifle is arc if I hadn't already mentioned, so on double kills you can activate amplified, which as I mentioned before gives so many synergistic benefits to the build. For armor mods, I run 1 Reaper and 1 utility kickstart on my cloak. Kickstart helps to gain my class ability back faster, and hence my Juggernaut shield is up for longer. Reaper helps me to generate an orb when I use a class ability. To my boots, which have double insulation and absolution, when I do pick up that orb, I gain back even more class ability. I run the relevant unflinching, dexterity, and targeting mods. Remember, arc mods are expensive this season, so use harmonic mods if you're using an arc weapon like the Iterative Loop, as they cost less energy. For stats, the number 1 priority here is 100 resilience. It lowers your class ability cooldown and thus your Juggernaut uptime is increased. Then aim for 100 recovery so you get your health back quickly in between engagements, and then go for intellect for more super regeneration for those important thunder crashes in Trials. Finally, I would go for discipline, strength, and mobility in that order. So there you have it guys, my Antaeus Ward Arc Titan build that pairs perfectly well with the craftable fusion rifle, the Iterative Loop. Honestly, try out that second role I recommended for the fusion rifle with this build, you won't be disappointed. You're going to start seeing a whole lot more of this combination in the Crucible with those mid-season sandbox changes. If you enjoyed what I talked about today, remember to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more Destiny builds, both PvE and PvP. I'm Mr. On It, and that's it for today. Peace out, guys.